Hello rock and metal fans, welcome to Iridium Rock and Metal Reviews, and as promised, or as I think I said earlier on, I'm going to do two songs off the STRYPER album today, so reacting to every one of them. I really saw that the yellow vest was a bit bright earlier, so now I've got my face covering that I wear in the shops, trying to cover my work logo. So I know it looks a bit ridiculous, but you know, it's rock and roll, isn't it? So, we're up to track 10 now. So we're getting to the end of the album. This is sort of the song, and this is For God and Rock and Roll. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, For God and Rock and Roll. This is a song that I suppose the most worried about not liking. And the reason for that is I haven't heard anyone talk about this song, For God and Rock and Roll. So I've heard them talk about all the others, and you're going to like this and you're going to like that, and wait till you hear the next one. But no one has mentioned For God and Rock and Roll. So I'm a bit concerned. Is this the one? Is this the song that I'm not going to like too much? I don't know. Even the next one, even the, is it Middle Finger Messiah, the last track? I've only heard people talk about that in a controversial way in the title of the song. So, you know, maybe there might be a couple of songs I'm not too keen on, but if you've been witnessing all my reactions to this album so far, every song has been pretty much spot on. It's near enough a perfect album so far. You know, and that says a lot. There's not many times perfect albums come along. So, For God and Rock and Roll. I'm ready. Let's hope this one's good. Like I said, I haven't heard a lot about it, but we'll stop it halfway through as normal. So here we go. Forgive the attire. Right, here we go. For God and Rock and Roll. Well, I had nothing to worry about. I love it. It's brilliant. This second part, the second half of this album is veering a lot more towards the 80s. You know, it's a really heavy song. Love the gang vocals. There's been a couple of them songs like that on there, but it's really, I don't know, it reminds me of, and you know, it's not any particular song, but another band that I really like, and I don't know why it reminds me of them, but it does for some reason. That's Y&T. I love Y&T, and well, Yesterday and Tomorrow, as they used to be known, but I'm not saying it reminds me of any particular song of theirs. It just reminds me, for some reason, of them, their style. You know, I don't know if, I'm not saying that, you know, it was meant to sound like them. It probably doesn't. Some people probably thinking, you idiot, shut up. It doesn't sound anything like Y&T, and you're probably right. But for some reason it does. It's a lot more, now, I know it's in the title, For God and Rock and Roll, but this, like I said, there's sort of, a lot of the time there's two sides to Stryper, and that's the sort of the power metal type side, and then there's the sort of rock and roll type side. This is definitely falling in the second category, in the sort of rock and roll. Absolutely loving the guitar sound. As soon as it came on, loved the sound of Robert Sweet's drums. You know what, Michael Sweet has got his production absolutely nailed. He's got it nailed. And I was listening to, I'm going to bring it up again, I sort of seem to be advertising other YouTube channels here. But the Metal Voice, bringing that up again, what I was listening to the other day, and Michael Sweet was talking about the production, and some fans are saying, you know, they prefer the To Hell with the Devil or even the Soldiers Under Command production. No way. Listen, that is just nostalgia talking. That's someone's favourite album, and they're saying everything's better on it. This production, I'm telling you now, if you heard this production back then, you would have been just, wow, listen to that. The drum sound, the guitar sound, the thumping bass. I don't know how he's done it, but if I was a band and I could afford Michael Sweet, you know, any band now, I would hire him to be my producer, because if he can get a sound like that, you know, I don't know, honestly, I'm thinking about producers now. There's not many producers that can produce music sounding like that now. And it might all be to do with the Stryper sound as well, but he's mastered this album into, it could be so much less with a bad production, you know, and he's got everything he can out of every instrument. Really impressed. Really like this song. I was a little bit worried about it. It's probably because it's the least, I suppose it's the most sort of straightforward sounding song. Really rock and roll. It's probably one that's not a standout song on the album, but it fits perfectly in, if you know what I mean. It's a great song, and it really does. A lot of this is bringing me straight back to the 80s. Really is, and this one again is absolutely superb. Love it. Here we go for the rest of the song. I'm going to stop rabbiting now. This will be till the end now. That reminds me of Midnight Mover, except, don't know why. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, what a dirty solo. Oh, that is rock and roll, that. Oh, proper. I like the last part more than the first part. That solo was so dirty. It was like so raw. I could hear, it was like I could hear the, I don't know if it was Oz or Mike. I think they swapped at some point. There was the second part of the solo. You could almost hear his fingers hitting the strings. It was so, I don't know, it sounded so live. And I think, isn't it weird that he's actually, on the production of this, it sounds like, I'd like to know his views, Michael Sweet. He's gone for a particular sound on that song, a bit different than the other song. You know, the production really brings out like a sort of a live, raw feel. Especially on that solo. That was brilliant. And yeah, that little bit reminded me of Midnight Mover by Accept, the little breakdown just as I went back into the song there. I love it. I absolutely love it. That has brought another element to the album, but it's really, a lot of these songs, it's just a perfect balance, isn't it, between the 80s Stryper and sort of with a modern sound. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Well, even if it ends now, the album, even if Middle Finger Messiah is, you know, even if it sounds like, oh, I don't know, if it's like, sounds like an 80s pop tune or something, and it ain't, it's still going to be brilliant. You know what I mean? All of a sudden, if like, you know, I don't know, they sound like blimmin' Pet Shop Boys. Don't know if you know the Pet Shop Boys in America. But if they play, if Middle Finger Messiah comes on and it sounds like the Pet Shop Boys, it's still going to be a great album. It might, you know, like the end might be a bit disappointing for me, but I'm sure it's not. I'm sure it's not the Pet Shop Boys. But one more song to go, Middle Finger Messiah. Like I said earlier, then I'm going to do a review of the whole album. Just to run down my final thoughts, my final scores, and where it's going to land in my ranking of the albums. Thanks very much for listening. See you next time. And if you want to subscribe, please press the red button, bottom right hand corner.